Live from the Spill Studios, located behind a liquor store of the I-35 interchange, it's time once again for a couple of cold ones with Corey and Carlisle.
Actually, I'm at the house behind the liquor store in Waco. I'm at Ma Duke's house.
Ma Duke.
Ma Duke, which is just my mother's house. I was coming from my nephew's wedding in Tyler, Texas, and
Oof.
yeah, Tyler, man, Tyler, Texas. My sister used to live there when she got married to my brother-in-law, and you cannot get beer in that place.
No, Tyler sucks. Tyler and Longview both are scary, scary places.
Is Longview a dry county also?
I don't know if Longview's dry. I know Longview's racist.
Really?
That's what I was always told when I was in the area. That was not the place to be if you were black.
Really? I thought those pitchforks were like greetings from people. I didn't know that they were angry when I was coming through.
Apparently, they're not fans. I don't understand. I think they felt robbed by the last Fresh Prince album, and they were just very. They just started taking it out on everybody. They're like, "This is terrible."
Well, Tyler is scary for a different reason. I never encountered any kind of real racism in Tyler when my sister was living there. I went there, it was cool. I had a great time. I wasn't drinking beer at the time, so I didn't have to worry about that. But my brother-in-law would get up and say, "Hey, man, we're going to go for a ride." And I was like, all right. So we would drive 20 minutes outside of the city limits, and we would go to get beer. Because once you leave the city limits, it's funny, man, how they have it set up. It's like it turns into Skid Row all of a sudden because they have all these juke joints and all these beer barns, and then they have all these, like, apparently you can't get a lap dance in Tyler, Texas either because they have all these like places where you can see live nude dancing and all that kind of shit. So when they say it's dry, they mean your penis is dry as well as your mouth. So it's funny how people have to leave the town to get some excitement. I mean, the only thing to really do in Tyler is to go to the mall or to the movies. So
my sister went to college out there, and she said that on Friday and Saturday nights the only thing to do was to go to Taco Bell. So everybody sat in the Taco Bell parking lot at 10 o'clock on Friday night because there was nothing else to do.
That's just fucking stupid. Why would they do that when they have a nice Dairy Queen across the street? I don't make
You know
any
what?
sense.
I don't even understand what she was doing going to college out in Tyler, Texas. Tyler. Seriously, Tyler. But for those of you that aren't from Texas, what you have to understand is Texas. There are 4 regions to Texas. I mean, we're a large state, but there's Central Texas, which is where we live, and that's the straight down the middle. That's the Austin, the San Antonio, and that leads down to the coast. You've got the Panhandle, which is just, it's more Oklahoma than it is Texas. You've got West Texas, which is the dry, arid, deserty area where all the oil pumping happens.
It takes forever to get out of.
And then you have East Texas, and East Texas is the closest thing we have to the South. It runs along the border of Louisiana, and areas that we're talking about like Longview and Tyler are closer to major cities in Louisiana than they are to major cities in Texas, and they have that feel to them. And Tyler and Longview are the 2 biggest cities out in the middle of nowhere, and they're not the greatest places in the world to find yourself. They are kind of frightening, poor Texas towns.
Yeah.
And but they're bigger than everything else in the area. There's a lot of great small towns in that area. I worked at a camp out at Big Sandy, Texas, for a summer, and beautiful, beautiful out there. I mean, the amount of trees that are out there is just incredible. I mean, it's gorgeous country, but man, is it redneck.
There's a place called Big Sandy.
Big Sandy, yeah, it's a big antiquing town.
Texas,
and
all
what
my
by
life.
big, I mean that's what people go there for. It's not it is not big, but there are a lot of antiquers out there, and the downtown is just filled with antique stores, or at least it was when I worked there.
Well, Big Sandy sounds like a place you go get like a homemade burger and a snow cone or ice cream cone.
You're just saying that because we have a place in town called Sandy's.
That's probably what I'm thinking of. Yes,
exactly what you're thinking.
That's what I'm thinking
Sandy's, which makes homemade custard, which is delicious.
There you go. That's what I'm thinking of. No, man, you're exactly right about East Texas. I mean, I'm sure it's gotten better because, especially since they have this negative light cast upon them. But if anybody remembers, that's where they drugged that dude James Byrd. And when I say that, I don't mean the whole town, but it was one of the most.
Yeah, they all got together.
Yeah, it's
turned from the truck.
Oh yeah, it was an annual event. Drag the black man from the back of a truck day. No, it was.
That's not what we call it.
What? I'm sorry. What do we call it? We call it Christmas.
Call it grind the Negro
in East Texas.
No, it's whittle them down.
It's Thanksgiving Day. No, it's yeah, it was one of the most gruesome incidents in recent Texas violence where these three guys knew this guy too. It was a guy named James Byrd. He was walking home one night or walking somewhere. I don't know. He's kind of drunk, I think, and these three guys who were just sort of just vicious guys. They were angry and they decided to like tie him up to the back of a truck and drove his ass down the streets, and it was so bad that his head came off. And I mean, I read a book about this incident, and I think it was the sheriff who came to the crime scene. I mean, I won't even go into the descriptions of it, like the guy's hands.
Yeah, you already
and
told
all
us
that
his head popped off. I mean, it's not really much left you can do.
Let me put it this way: his head popping off is probably the most merciful part of that whole crime, because what happened while he was being dragged is, man, it's the stuff that nightmares are made of. I mean, you hear about torture and how people died in these gruesome ways. I mean, I'm talking about not only this incident like in medieval times and just in any other part of history where you hear
they do that at medieval times. I thought they just didn't give you silverware.
No. Medieval times, you catch them on the right day. Yeah, they do all that kind of stuff.
They drag you around in the ring on a truck.
Yeah. Draw and quarter you, serve you up as one of the turkey legs. I mean, there's all kind of good stuff going on over there at medieval times.
Yeah.
I mean, the human the capacity for human cruelty it's just, I mean, wow. Let me put it this way: hearing the crime, the details of this crime makes me go back and think about how other people were tortured and how we kind of laugh about that these days, and we even have exhibits over in Europe about torture chambers and stuff like that. And it's just like, wow, how much of the details are we missing that describe just how gruesome these things were? And yeah, looking
it makes you want to become a black superhero, doesn't it, Corey?
What
makes you want to go out and go all vigilante on some redneck ass, doesn't it?
You know what, I have thought about that. Like, wow, it'd be nice if I could go back in time with superpowers or a ray gun or something and actually like take my vengeance out on some violent rednecks. And then it makes me think, well, I'm just one person, and even if I had to like come back in my present time, I'd just be making it bad for all the other black people there. You know, I'd leave and there'd be no protector there for those black people anymore.
We were just drunk and some black guy came out of nowhere and just started beating the crap out of us. We didn't do nothing.
We weren't doing anything. Let's
like,
burn that
for the guy you dragged to death with your truck, and we didn't do that.
I'm just thinking, you know, it's like, wow, if there was a movie called Rosewood where you remember this?
I love Rosewood.
Where a woman, like, if you haven't heard this movie, a woman, she was having an affair or something, and her husband found out, and she blamed a town full of black people, Rosewood, for the crime, or a crime that she made up. She lied and said I was raped by a black man, and so the people already. I guess the neighboring town were already kind of pissed off. Was it the white people in the neighboring town or the people in Rosewood?
No, Rosewood was the black town.
It was a black town, so it was a neighboring town, and the white people got pissed. They were already upset at this town. You know, the whole town full of black people. They were scared as hell about that. But once they had an excuse to go crazy, whether it happened or not, it was like a massacre. They burned that town to the ground. And I'm just thinking, wow, if a woman comes in and says she was raped and they burn a town down for that, just think what would happen if a black superhero showed up. They'd fucking annihilate every black person in the world if that happened. They'd try to nuke Africa if they could.
That's how Lex Luthor became president.
But man, you know what? I am looking. I don't want to start off with such a negative note about human cruelty and all that.
Yeah, we're only 10 minutes into the show already, and we've talked about people's heads popping up.
Yes, I don't want to do that. I don't want to bring that kind of negative stuff. I'm on a lighter note here. I'm looking at some of the entries for the Spill.com Film Festival, and it's some interesting and some funny stuff going on with that. You know, you guys are going to be judges, right?
No, I did not. You haven't told me anything about any of this.
Well, I'm going to give you guys a rundown this week and see what you want to participate in. One of the things that I'm sure you'd want to do.
Oh, this is next week, isn't it?
Yeah, next Saturday. Well, the film festival is next Saturday, and I am getting all the films together, and really things are coming together so crazily that I'm just now able to get a schedule of what the events where they will be, what time they will be, where they'll fall into place. And next Saturday is a film festival where you guys will all get to judge these 5-minute shorts that people send in.
Awesome. Yeah, that was the number one thing after our podcast together as a group. That was the number one thing that I was interested in going to. I'm really curious to see what people have done here.
Yeah, hey, we got some creative people, some not so creative people, but it should all be funny. I'm leaving it up to you guys to judge as you will, whether you want to be harsh or you want to be gentle, whatever you want to do. I'm leaving it all up to you. I'm just looking at them. I'm not going to judge because everybody's going to think I'm biased. People are already saying like, oh, I know this person is going to get it because you like that guy, or this girl right here is going to get it because you think she's cute and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm taking myself out of it.
We give extra points for cuteness. We always have.
I do. That's why I can't judge fairly.
You've been giving rentals to bad movies for a long time just because you'd fuck somebody in the movie.
And just think what would happen if I was judging that movie. So I'm pulling myself out of it and letting you guys go ahead and be the bad people here.
Don't judge me.
And I'm looking forward to this too because I know I'm looking at these things and I know some of the things I would say about them, and I'm just looking forward to some of the comments that you'll have for them. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And then right after the film festival, then we will have our group podcast together where we just sit there and introduce ourselves to the people, welcome people, bullshit, and take questions. Yeah, it's gonna be a good time that Saturday. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun. We might even tie somebody up to a truck and pop their head off if it gets too crazy. So, with that said, you want to get into the top 5?
The top 5 brought to you by Exploding Heads
at Spill.com. Now, not too much going on here that is surprising to anyone this week. I doubt if anyone's going to be surprised as to the way that things came out. But you know what? That's not going to stop us from telling you about it anyway, starting with number 5.
The number 5 film.
Boy, I told you Shrek ain't going nowhere. He's going to get his. Shrek is still in the top 5. At number 5 with $5.5 million coming in this week, pushing it
Big
over.
drop.
But pushing its budget, I mean not its budget, but its gross over $200 million. It is now at $223 million. And again, I've said this over and over again. Also, it's at a budget of $165. So even though it's probably not the best received Shrek film, it is still done extremely well. And looking at this makes me think that they are not done yet. And I'm not even wanting another Shrek film.
I think they're done. I mean, looking at this, it's a substantial drop from what they've made previously. People are tired of it. People were not in love with the film. It's done all right. But again, it was the only animated film, out there for kids right now that, everyone hadn't seen. The minute something else showed up, this had a huge drop off, and this is its last week in the top 5.
Yeah.
Like, it's gone.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
This was it.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's, hey, look, it's run its steam, and I run out of steam at this point, but ran its course well, and whatever. I really hope they don't make another one. But anyway, let's go to number.
I've got to say, from this point on, this is one of those odd times where I could say I'm really happy with the rest of the top 5. Like, I like where everything is.
Even with number 4?
Even with number 4. Are you kidding? Number 4 is great. Let's move on to the number 4 film.
Which is Get Him to the Greek.
Get him to the Greek.
Which brought in $6.1 million this weekend, bringing its total up to $48 million so far. It cost $40 million to make, so not bad. Not too shabby, as some people would say.
No, and it's going to be one of those films that'll do really well on DVD. It will really find its audience, but it's already made its money back. It's in the number 4 spot again this week. People are still seeing it. People are still laughing and getting exposed to it. It's a good flick. I'm really happy to see that it stuck around.
I'm not. I hated this movie. No, I didn't hate this movie. I don't mind if it does well or not. I wasn't crazy about it, but hey, good Good for them. Good for that Russell Brand British asshole son of a bitch and the fat kid Jonah Hill.
Oh, the white British Corey.
No, I do not have a sex addiction that I'm ready to admit to. So let's go to
the number three film. Ba, ba, da, ba,
which
ba,
is
ba,
the A-Team. Now I know you love this movie. You're gonna think I'm talking shit about it, but I'm not.
Talk shit about it.
I'm not talking shit. It brought in. I'm just gonna tell like it is. It brought in $13.8 million, bringing its total up to $49.8 million, and it is underperforming to expectations.
It is.
It cost $110 million first of all, and they thought that this being based on a television series, which is fondly remembered by young and old alike, that it would do better, but it is not, and the competition is coming out, so it's probably going to be slipping a little further as weeks come along. But hey, as we always say, there's a DVD audience out there for it, or a Blu-ray audience.
Yeah, I hope this gets discovered on DVD, and I hope it does really well. I hope that it sticks around for a while. And just slowly makes money. I really like this film. I'm really disappointed that it's not doing great, but I'm happy that it's still in the top 5. So it didn't have a huge drop off this weekend. So
it fell pretty almost 50%, 46.
46% though. It didn't fall over.
All right.
It's holding in there. I'm positive. I want this film to do well. I liked it a lot. If you have not seen it yet, this is probably my favorite film of the summer. It was just so much fun.
Your favorite film of the summer so far?
So far, yeah. I can't think of a film that I want to watch more often than that one.
That is crazy.
It's not crazy.
That is the crazy. Even you like this more than number 2?
Yeah, I mean, I really like number 2, but I like number 3 better than number 2.
Insanity. How could you like the A-Team more than this other 80s property? Or at
the
least
Karate Kid.
Based on an 80s property, The Karate Kid, a remake of the 1980 movie?
1984.
1984, okay. 1984. The original had Ralph Macchio. Now we got Lil Jaden Smith, the spawn of Will Smith, as the new Karate Kid, raking the money in. Those Smiths, boy, people love those people. People love those black folk.
What do you mean, those people?
Exactly, those Negroes with money. This brought in $29 million, bringing its total up to $106.3 million. And this is impressive because this movie debuted strongly with like about 56 million, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then combined with this week has already gone over 100 million with the budget of only 40 million. So people are very happy with this movie.
This thing's a profit machine. Audiences are loving it. It is that family film that could, and everyone is enjoying it. The whole family is getting into it. All week, that's all people were talking about. Was I kept getting questions about how's that Karate Kid? My kids really want to see it, and people are excited about it and are really digging it. So good for them. I liked it. I think it's a good movie.
Man, boy, that Smith family, I mean, sometimes they just shit out money.
Well, they what are you going to do? They kind of have an understanding of entertainment.
No, it's good. I like Will Smith. I'm very happy to see him doing well. I expect to see one of his turds in the movie grossing $100 million. That guy is such a money-making machine.
Really?
Anyway, yeah, really. I'd watch it too.
You think you'd watch his turd movie?
If it was good, yeah. Hey, if you're gonna watch any turd, it might as well be Will Smith's. Now, this is what confuses me about you saying that the A-Team is your favorite movie, even more than the number 1 movie this week.
Yeah.
That's it. Just That's
yeah.
All. Just man.
The number 1 movie of the week
is one of the best movies I've seen so far this year. Toy Story 3, bringing in $109 million on its opening weekend, and I say this movie probably deserves more. I love this film. I'm even more impressed that they were able to pull off 3 great films. You never see a trilogy pull off any kind of trifecta like this, hardly ever. It's very rare in Hollywood. And Pixar, if anybody's going to do it, might as well be Pixar. Not only has Pixar pulled off this winning streak by making a trilogy with 3 great films, but this is also continuing the winning streak of them debuting with the #1 movie. They have a perfect record as far as debuting a film. Pixar is probably the strongest brand out there in Hollywood right now. Do you agree or disagree, my man?
I think it's the strongest brand. Yeah.
Did you not like this? Did you not like this movie?
No, the thing is I really like this movie. I think it's a very good movie. I think it was very well executed, and I think everybody has lost their minds in heaping praise on it like it's the second coming of filmmaking. And I don't think it's one of the best films of the year. I think I liked it better when it was called Toy Story 2, which this borrowed heavily from. And it's cute, it's adorable, it does everything it needs to do, but it never made me fall in love with it. And there's some choices they make, particularly towards the end, that I wasn't happy, thrilled with as a film watcher. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I walked out going, yeah, it was really good. But it's not something I have never been a fan of the Toy Story series to begin with. I think they're all very well made movies. I've never really liked the idea of them. And so they've never really connected with me. And as a result, I watch them and I go, oh, hey, that's good. And everybody else is like, what do you mean it's good? It's fucking great. It is the best thing that's ever happened to film. Oh my God, it's like a digital blowjob. And it's like, well, no, it's it's brilliant. I've been listening to my friends all weekend, say stupid shit like, what's the difference between The Godfather and Toy Story? One of them has a great third movie. And it's like, it's not that good. It's really good, but it's not.
It is that good. It's not the same. Look, yeah, they're different. They're different stories, they're different genres, they're different audiences probably for this movie, for those two movies. But as far as just good cinema, Toy Story is right up there with The Godfather. I mean, this belongs in a vault of some of the greatest movies made.
I totally disagree. I've always had a problem with the whole notion of just what I've never really bought into the talking toy mystique. I never bought into. I never liked the idea of it.
Why? It's a movie, man. It's not like you looking for realism here, like toys can't talk.
No, not at all. I just don't. The entire series is built around people's nostalgia for toys and the fact that they make these toys characters, and it's cute, and it's a cute idea. It makes for some fun films. But I've never felt emotionally attached to any of the stories. I've never really gotten into them, and they all feel very overtly manipulative in the way that it's kind of like there's a great bit they did on Community where one of the characters holds up a pencil and says, "This is my friend Bill," and then he snaps the pencil, and everybody in the room goes, "Oh!" And it's like you've taken an inanimate object and you've given it, a semblance of humanity, and then you put those things in danger, and people add on their own attachment to toys with the adorability of these animated things, and it just.
You don't think that it's because they're just well-developed characters and
they're not well-developed characters. They're all very much cardboard cutouts. I've never felt that any of the characters in Toy Story had anything beyond the. You've got two major toys. You've got one toy that is the stoic hero toy, and one toy that is kind of the cliche hero. And they don't have any actual developed personalities. They have adventures that they go on, and they help each other out. But really, tell me something about Woody other than the fact that he really loves Andy and he's the leader of the toys.
Well, it's his personality that also is because of the voice acting that goes with it. I mean, Tom Hanks plays that voice.
Oh, it's great voice acting.
Yeah, no, Tom Hanks plays that voice very well, and the fact, and that's enough, man. I mean, that he cares about Andy to the point where he's protective, and also has to be. He cares about Andy so much that he becomes intimidated when there's a new toy there, and this new toy has this disillusionment when it first comes into the scene, and they have to develop this friendship between them because of the adventures that they have to go through. You don't think
but
that's development at all?
These aren't great characters.
Well, I mean, you narrowed them down to like you narrowed them down to that type, which any great character could be narrowed down to its type.
But no. I asked you outside of him loving Andy and outside of him being the leader, tell me something about his personality. Give me a character trait, something else about him.
Well, for one thing, he's very likable because he has a good wit about himself. And because of his good nature, you grow to like him also.
Sure.
But that good nature kind of goes out the window. See, that's what's so cool about it, because he is such a good-natured character that when he becomes intimidated by somebody like Buzz Lightyear, when he's introduced, he becomes somewhat very petty, and anybody can relate to that. We all fancy ourselves like good people, and then we have, without often recognizing that sometimes the pettiness that everybody can stoop to at some point whenever we are caught in a situation where we feel intimidated or jealous of something or envious of somebody else or insecure about something. I mean, Woody is also a very insecure character, at least in the first Toy Story.
And this is why I think they're really good movies. I like all of them. I do not dislike any of them. I do not have major problems with these. Of course, because I say I really like them and don't love them, we're going to have a comment section full of people screaming at me that I'm wrong about Toy Story because it's brilliant.
That's right, because you narrowed it down, because you narrowed it down to something very simple. And people, I want you to remember this day. I'm just messing with you, Carla, a little bit. I'm gonna have to mess with you because you mess with my movies now. I want people to remember this day. The next time Carla asks me, "Where's my soul?" you remember this day when he said Toy Story was just okay.
Well, but I've always said that you have that soft spot for that you're totally gay for animated films.
And I knew you were gonna fall back on that, which, hey, everybody
I'm
knows
slowing back.
That's everybody knows that's not
You're
true.
the one who went, I have a soul. See, I love Toy Story.
No, I said you have no soul because you don't like Toy Story.
See, this is exactly what you fuckers do. I like Toy Story, you motherfucker. I like it. I just don't fucking get on my knees and suck its balls for 3 straight hours on Twitter.
Hey, man, I sometimes, look, you're a weirdo.
I'm going to take so much. See, I didn't write a review of this because I just didn't want to deal with the bullshit, because I knew that saying, hey, it's a really good movie, you should see it, and have people go, what do you mean it's a really good movie? It's fucking great. What the fuck's your problem? It's just bullshit I don't want to deal with. Like, there's a level of passion for this movie that I just don't get, and I just want no part of.
I understand. I think you just throw people off sometimes because you seem like the person who would enjoy these movies, and not because they're Pixar. I mean, they really love you seem like the person who would fall into that category of people who would love these films, because I can tell you. I mean, look, it's as we all say, it's your opinion. I'm just fucking with you right now. I'm not gonna mess with you about your opinion. If if you're not crazy about them, or you just like them, I'm not gonna sit up here and say, hey man, you're what kind of guy are you? What kind of blasphemous asshole are you? You don't love these movies. If you don't love them, you don't love them. I understand that, but I think you throw people off sometimes because of they just think because of your track record or because of your history, whatever, of movies that you just adore. And you are such a fan of writing, and especially good writing, that you would recognize the good writing, at least what the majority of people see as good writing in these films. And so I think the people are kind of thrown off when you say, these aren't well-developed characters, or these stories aren't that good. I think that I can see people getting upset because I think that you're probably oversimplifying the movie or these series of films. But like I said, you know me, man. I don't hate. I don't get upset over when I'm doing this, because we have a show to do, and I want to keep people entertained. I think the conversation is lively and good. But you know me, man. I don't give a shit if people like or dislike something. That's your mind, not mine.
I'm just, it's good. It's really good. And I do give it a full price. I'm just not in love with it because I have a feeling, I didn't listen to your review, but I have a feeling most of you guys gave this better than Sex.
Well, here's the deal. I gave it full price because I had a couple of problems with some scenes in this movie, and I caught a little bit of flack for that myself, even though I say this movie was on the brink of better than Sex. I mean, really, I love this movie. I think I saw history in the making with something like this. That's how high I hold this film. But as far as the third movie, I saw a couple of problems in there, and I said, because of that, it's not a perfect film. And
that's how I feel. I'm just not. Those problems just made me go, oh, yeah, it's really good, as opposed to, I love it and I can forgive them. Well,
I think people were upset with me because they thought I was nitpicking, and I just had to be, I thought about it. I was like,
That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking
well, no,
about.
I think I hold these movies in higher regard than you do. I see them really as masterpieces. All three of these films, but it's
See, and that kills me because I think Pixar's made so many much better films. I think by far The Incredibles and Wall-E and Up are far better films than the Toy Story films are. I think they're far more original. I think they've got much better themes, and I think overall the execution is better.
Well, I think what the deal is with Toy Story is that, yeah, they've made some better films. They've actually grown, but Toy Story was one of those, one of their first features, and people really liked that movie. I mean, people really loved that movie. When I saw it, I loved it, and I love those characters. And being that they've made some sequels, yeah, they've probably had some characters out there that maybe are a little more developed or have more emotional depth to them. But with these characters, people don't mind them. People love seeing them because they know them from a long time ago. These are characters that you want to spend time with, and I think they developed these characters well enough that, especially across the span of three films, that they've grown also those characters, and they've also been able to create one entire story that they've capped off in a very fitting way. I mean, they address some things that are fitting for these movies, which is mainly what happens when a kid grows up and these toys are going to be left to either be thrown away or donated somewhere else or given to someone else. I mean, what's their fate going to be and how are they emotionally going to handle that? I think these are really, really rich characters, man. I think that's why people are like, what the hell are you talking about, Carl? I don't know what you mean by these characters are just not that good. So
I don't understand what you mean by crafted one perfect story. In fact, this film is pretty much the same story as the last film. I mean, there's definite differences. There's the whole Great Escape aspect to it, but it's dealing with it. It's dealing with the same a lot of the same plot elements. It's dealing with the same emotional thrust, and overall, I think the ending kind of cheaps out a bit. I think they go for the sweet, cute, let's try to make the audience happy ending rather than the bittersweet but sad ending that it probably should have had. And I'm an old school fan of the Velveteen Rabbit. I think that's one of the greatest children's stories ever written. It's heartbreaking. Like after we saw this, me and my wife sat around and talked about the Velveteen Rabbit, and just we both kind of started tearing up while we were talking about it because I'm a little bitch, and because it's the fucking Velveteen Rabbit, and I felt like this series has borrowed so much from the Velveteen Rabbit, and yet never went where the Velveteen Rabbit did. And I don't think it needed the same ending, but I think that kind of level of connection and of seriousness, and when you're dealing with issues like mortality and leaving childhood behind, you don't go and go for the cheap Disney ending. And that's what I felt they did. So
see, that's another thing. It's a comedy, and they didn't want to. It's never been that heavy. And
no, it hasn't.
And they don't. And I don't think they want to. I don't think they want to change that. I mean, there's some things. It works enough what they have. I don't think they have to go to that level of being, of being that sad.
They don't.
Yeah,
they absolutely don't. But by not going to that level, that's what keeps it being, pop fun, that I think is a, really good film, and glad that audiences are enjoying. And I'm really happy audiences are going out and rewarding a good film, but that's what keeps it from being great for me. And that's why I get so bothered when people start comparing it to some of the best films ever made, emotional films that leave you wrecked at the end. These films don't do that. These films don't connect on that kind of a level. These films stay pop when they could go and be great films. And I think that exalting them as some of the greatest films ever made is denying the fact that they don't go the places they could go to make truly great, heartbreaking stories.
Well, I don't think they're meant to be heartbreaking stories. I mean, it's because there's a tone that they've consistently kept, and they're not about heartbreak. They're more about the relationship between these toys and their owner, and at some point having to learn to let go. And that's the main thing right there. I don't think it needs to be overshadowed by something to make it heavier, just to make it more dramatic or to make it more real to life. I mean, these are family films, and I don't think they're out there to make people cry that much. I mean, it was sad enough knowing that they had to let a part of their lives go that they knew for years and that the audience knew for years. I mean,
The
like
way-
I said, it's
The
two
way
different tones.
people are referring to this film, while nobody has actually said they are saying that it is better than The Iron Giant. And Iron Giant did this story better. I think Iron Giant is by far one of the greatest animated films ever. But even then, I wouldn't put Iron Giant up with The Godfather. But I think Iron Giant runs circles around anything any of the Toy Stories have ever done.
I'd probably say that it's about the same. I mean, in different, like again, at different tones. The Iron Giant had that tone that they wanted to like put in there, and it was, and they set that tone. Like, let's say if they want to make another movie, which wouldn't even make sense, but it was the first film. They set that tone for the first film. I mean, it's not supposed to be as whimsical as Toy Story. I mean, it's just
Well, I have no problem with the tone. What I have is the exaltation of the film in spite of that tone. They wanted to make fun, poppy family films, and that's what they made. But they're not greatest film ever made films. That's that is where I'm drawing the line. I'm not complaining about the films or saying that the tone is wrong. I'm saying that the tone is wrong to be considered one of the greatest films ever made.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to, you know me. Hey, look, I think they.
I do.
I think that there's some of the greatest films out there, and I love them. And no, they're not the most original stories out there. I mean, if you want to see a story very similar to this, go back to the late '80s when they brought out a movie called The Brave Little Toaster, which was another movie about inanimate objects having to make their way across the city or whatever, across the land, to go find their owner, who, much like in Toy Story 3, has kind of grown up and gone to college. It's a very similar story, but I mean, those tones can be seen with a lot of things. I mean, they had another tone with talking toys in a movie from the 70s called The Mouse and His Child. It's not, no, these are not new themes, but it's not about creating new themes. It's about what you do with those themes and how well you craft that story around them and make them into something fresh as far as the characters go. And I think that unlike you know, something like The Brave Little Toaster, they really were able to capture characters that people have grown to love. I don't know, man. I'm fascinated by this. You and I could talk about this all day, and it's just, and I respect what you're saying. I'm not giving you a hard time. I just you know, it does.
Oh no, but this is what we've done. Now we have officially talked about film on our movie podcast.
Yeah, there we go. Now we can talk bullshit. Hey, man.
Now we can bullshit.
What'd you eat today? So, yeah. What else is happening out there?
Nothing really.
Nothing at all in this big wondrous world of film and entertainment. There's nothing that's going on.
Slow news week.
Well, you know, one thing that we were going to talk about that we did not is that we had another new entry in the top 5.
The number 8 film.
Not a new entry in the top 5, but we had another new debut this week, and it bombed at number 8, which is Jonah Hex.
Jonah Hex.
And again, where everybody knew Toy Story was just going to do gangbusters, everyone predicted that Jonah Hex was destined for failure. At a debut of number 8, it brought in $5.1 million, and I don't know what the budget was on that. But...
And most of that was film critics who had to pay to go see it to review it.
And hey, and you can listen to our review. Did you see this movie?
Oh yes, I wrote it up for film.com, or no, I'm sorry, Hollywood.com actually.
All right, now I want to hear your opinion. I did not see it. I was going to my nephew's wedding, and a lot of people were just waiting to see what kind of review we were going to give this. While I was at my nephew's wedding and I was having trouble posting stuff up in a timely fashion, somebody even wrote me and said, you know what, I'm very disappointed in you hiding this review. It's just as bad as selling out if you don't put it out there for people to see and people have to search for it. They were under the assumption that since they couldn't find it on the front page that I had buried it somewhere, so people should have to like do a scavenger hunt and go in and see it.
You know what? Don't act offended about that, because that's exactly what you mentioned on that on the podcast a week ago.
Actually, I said I would not put it on the front page. That I would probably,
which is why when they couldn't find it, that's what they thought happened.
But it would have. It either probably would have been. It would have been two things. It would have been on the front page anyway, because if it's posted as an audio review, you're going to see it on the front page. It's just not going to be big. And I would have let people know that they can find it in the audio review section. Except that our audio review section, when I saw it, it's still it's everywhere while we're trying to get that fixed. So I wasn't gonna make people go out there and just search for it. And I guess I can understand, but no, that's just dumb. Okay, you gotta look for it. You gotta dig for this review. Nah. So, but anyway, on our end, it got 2 rentals and 1 bullshit, and so relax, people. We didn't sell out. Gave you an honest opinion. What did you think of the movie?
Oh, I think it's full price. They're check cleared, and I think it's an excellent film. No, it's some old bullshit. It's seriously some old bullshit. This movie was terrible. Although I gotta admit, I laughed my ass off. It was so unintentionally funny at times that I was in love with its brilliance. So you have not seen it yet,
no.
So you do not understand the historical context that the film gives. One of the important things to note is what often isn't mentioned in documentaries is in the Old West, it was customary when somebody walked into a room that you greeted them with the old customary greeting, Jonah Hex. So say if you walked into the room, Corey, I would say Jonah Hex. And you would say to me, Jonah Hex. And then when we talk to each other, almost every sentence would either begin or end with the word hex.
Wait a minute, what?
When you watch this movie, every time Jonah Hex walks into a room, someone says the word Jonah Hex. And if you made a drinking game out of every time somebody says Jonah Hex, or even worse, every time somebody utters the word hex, you will be dead.
Oh.
There is no surviving that. Quite literally, half the script is utterances of the words Jonah Hex.
I got what you're saying. Kind of like that tone of Jonah Hex. You got a lot of nerve coming in here. That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. But it always starts out with Jonah Hex walks into a room and somebody goes, Jonah Hex. I never thought I'd see you again, Hex. Hex, what do you think you're doing here? It's almost like Jonah Hex died and then lost the ability to remember who he was, so everyone else is being kind and reminding him.
Jesus, man.
It's so bad. It's so unbelievably bad. And then you get to like the evil villain,
John Malkovich.
He's referred to as a terrorista.
Is that
I'm
like
not kidding. And he's going around in this big super ship with this semi-magical gun, and he plans on blowing up Washington, D.C.
Is that like a fashionista being a terrorista? What the hell they get this?
It's like a gay terrorist, I believe.
Okay.
It means either that or it's bad.
It's like the sex in the city girls with bombs strapped to them. I got you. Okay.
Oh, see, now there's a movie I'd watch.
Well, one can only hope that's going to be the next film. But no, so I've been reading a lot of bad things about this. Now, these guys said that they got enough entertainment out of it that it wasn't terrible. When they say entertainment, that they got very little, but not enough to say it was one of those terrible, worst bullshit movies. At least that's what 2 people said. So you give this as some straight up old bullshit.
Well, it is some old bullshit. There's no reason to see it. The only reason why it's not the worst thing we've ever seen is because they cut it down to 74 minutes long. It is literally 74 minutes before the credits. If the credits weren't on there, it would not qualify as a feature film. Because qualifications for a feature film is generally 75 minutes. They have cut out every last bit of shit that they could to leave what is just the bare bones of a movie. You don't care about this film. And it makes no sense, but it doesn't waste your time. Like, it's half an hour shorter than Wild Wild West. So when you stack it up against Wild Wild West, it's not nearly as bad. But that's because Wild Wild West had 30% more suck. This, it's in and it's out. And it's like, well, that was crappy, but you can't really hate it because you didn't really sit around suffering.
Now here's a question for you. Warner Brothers knew, and I guess this is released through Legendary Films, or Warner Brothers division. They knew that this movie was going to be bad. I mean, I guess they were trying to like pump it up as much as they could in certain places where they thought the audience would fit, like on our page. But they seemed to just kind of dump this out there. They didn't have too much confidence in this. Did the movie, was the movie cheap enough to where they could release it and make a little bit money on it so that they could like pump it up for Blu-ray? Or is this something that they actually thought they had a fighting chance with?
I don't think anybody thought they had a fighting chance. The main thing to keep in mind about this film is that it was It was made before the new person who took over the DC branding at Marvel or at Warner Brothers took over. So you have this whole new division, a newly staffed division, newly run differently, who have this film on their hands that they had nothing to do with and they know is crap. And I think that's why it got trimmed down, where they just said, look, make it to where it's quick and it's easy and people will watch it. And, the guys who like wrestling will really dig it, and we'll find audiences that we can appeal to that may go out and see this, audiences that like comic books, audiences that like Westerns, get in there and hopefully have them see it enough to where we make some money off of it. But I don't think they counted on this doing well at all. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put it up against Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, I think they put it against Toy Story 3 so that it could get clobbered and that they could shrug it off and go, what were we supposed to do? Everybody went and saw Toy Story 3. And they've got the added bonus of, well, A-Team was still in theaters and that did really well, and Karate Kid was still in theaters and that did really well. And what were we going to do? Our audience was cannibalized by 3 other films.
Now, A-Team didn't do all that well. You know that.
No, but yeah, and yet in its second weekend, A-Team almost did 3 times the business that this did.
Yeah, well, this movie.
That's what I'm saying.
No, this movie definitely
that'll be their excuse.
No, this movie.
That,
do you think this movie ever had a chance? So, I mean, not this particular movie, but this character, making a movie off of this character. Do you think they could have done anything with this?
They could have, but not this way. I think in order to do Jonah Hex right, you needed to take a Vertigo approach with it. I think they needed to make a grittier film. I think they needed to make a film that focused more on the supernatural elements of Jonah Hex rather than the action-y elements.
Yeah. But they did have some of that supernatural stuff in here, right?
The supernatural stuff is in there, but it's not. It's not. When you watch this film, it is clearly an action film, not a creepy comic book inspired supernatural thriller. There are much better westerns that have dealt with the supernatural edge, but none of them have ever had a real budget. So this was their chance to make a film that dealt with supernatural aspects and could have been a gritty film, and instead they decided to make it bigger, and it really does at times look like Wild Wild West. There's this kind of steampunk merging with it. No, I don't think anybody looked back at history and said, oh, hey, you know what? The same studio tried this before and it didn't work.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they thought that Jonah Hex, I mean, because when Jonah Hex premiered, this is why I was wondering, because I like Jonah Hex, and Jonah Hex has appeared in several incarnations of DC-related shows and whatnot throughout at least in recent years. Like he was in an episode of Batman, he was in an episode of I think of the Justice League, but a lot of people don't know he came from like a real gritty background, because when he first started out, it was actually a western. I think he was introduced in something called Weird Westerns back in the 70s, but they were straight westerns. They weren't supernatural. And then I think in the 80s or 90s, that's when they brought the supernatural element to it and try something different.
I have talked about in the past that Warner Brothers, after The Dark Knight was such a hit, Warner Brothers had this big meeting and sat down and said, okay, how can we make our superhero brand work like this film did? And their answer was, let's make the movies darker. Let's make dark hero stories. Let's tell these deep, emotional, mature stories. And some of us got a little nervous about that, because that's really good for some characters. Batman is a great character to do that with. Superman is not. Superman is a character that's not about telling gritty, emotional stories like that. That what we want from Superman is much bigger, much broader, and more mom, dad, and apple pie. But Jonah Hex is the perfect example of someone who should have been treated gritty and mature. There's no reason Megan Fox should be 10 miles within a set shooting a film like Jonah Hex. She's not the type of actress you go for there. You need, especially when you have a character who's supposed to be a likable prostitute, you cannot go with a girl whose only assets are her breasts. You just cannot do that because it's going to destroy the character and make her silly. I think they casted him right. I think Josh Brolin was great as Jonah Hex, and had he had a single thing to say that I cared about, I think he would have been a great choice. He's the type of guy. I mean, we've seen him do these gritty kind of films. I think he would have been great in a gritty Western as this, this dark, tragic hero. But instead, they wanted to put him into gunfights with exploding barrels and giant gunships firing magical guns. And I think they totally missed what they could have done here. This could have been a mature film, and it didn't even need to be a big budget film. That's just it. It did not need the special effects. The ideas dealt with in Jonah Hex as a comic book, I think, are smart enough and cool enough and intellectual enough that they can be dealt with without big visual effects, just with clever writing and cinematography. And I think they really missed the boat on making something that should have been more like The Crow and less like Wild Wild West.
Yeah, I saw those 2 Gatling guns on the side of that horse, and I was just like,
oh, for fuck's sake, yeah.
I see this shit. And then that
literally comes out of nowhere. He's just there and pulls up these Gatling guns, and he only does that once in the film. It just happens that he's there and he whips up these Gatling guns that nobody noticed and starts shooting people. And later on, he mentions to the guy who makes guns for him, "Hey, those Gatling guns worked really well." And that's the last we see of them.
Which is his Lucius Fox character, the what do you call it? What's his name? Nelson Mandela. What's his name? No, you know what I'm talking about.
Are you talking about
Morgan Freeman?
Morgan Freeman.
They got a Morgan Freeman type black man in this movie, like making this stuff up.
Well, because that's the new way that you can use black men in movies without being racist, is you have them be the smart guy.
There you go.
Still doesn't appear on screen.
If you're a tormented superhero, get a black man to make your gadgets. Apparently, they're very good at that. So, yeah, it's too bad to hear, man. I really like Jonah Hex. I wish that character could have been treated better and made a better film. But oh well, whatever.
Plus, you'd really like to be able to reuse the artwork later.
I would have. I would like. I'm looking for that joke to where I can take that little that string of flesh on the side of his mouth and like play it like a rubber band or something. Yeah, man, that's fun. Yeah, exactly. You got the idea. Can't do that now. At least not for another few years because they fucked up this movie. All right, you want to get into some tweets and emails?
Some tweets and emails.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Let's go back to what we were talking about a little bit ago. G-Man Reviews asks, what's your favorite and least favorite Pixar short film? Feel free to elaborate.
Oh, wow. I would have to say that probably, and I'm not saying this because I recently saw it, I was just blown away by it. My favorite Pixar short is the one that they had accompanying Toy Story 3, which is Night and Day. I just thought that was one of those rare artistic short films that I haven't seen in years, man. No dialogue. Everything was done with body language and with the creative use of superimposing scenes of daylight and nighttime inside of these characters. You just have to see it to see what I'm talking about. It's a very hard concept to explain, but one of the most imaginative shorts I've seen in a long time. Those Pixar guys in their idea department and some of their imagination department they blow me away with some of the concepts they come up with. So.
You know what? I absolutely love that short. I think it's great. I agree with you. It's one of the more original things I've seen in a while. That said, while it is one of my favorites, I've got to say, honestly, my personal favorite is Presto.
That was the one with the rabbit.
Yes, I absolutely love that one. It makes me laugh every time I watch it. I think it's adorable, and I just love the concept. Presto has to be my favorite.
I think what I love so much about Day and Night, because Presto's pretty good. I think what I love about Day and Night, though, is that Pixar has shown that they haven't abandoned their roots of some of the things, the principles of animation that make 3D animation as cool as it is today, which is 2D animation. They combine 2D animation with their 3D animation, and the 2D animation has almost a very retro feel to it. Some of the
Oh yeah,
inking
it was
and
very 60s.
yeah, the inking and everything right down to the inking
Well,
of these
the
characters,
character design.
the line work, the character design, and also again just the concept of this short harkens back to something like the 60s and 50s even. I mean, it blew me away, man. When I look at that, and I'm almost envious that these people have enough time to sit around and think of something as genius as that short. I was blown away completely. I love that. Anyway, whatever. You want to go on to the next thing?
Well, yeah, your least favorite.
Oh, least favorite. I
gotta say Bounden.
Oh, which one was that?
Bounden. It's the one with the bouncing whatever it was. I want to say it was the one in front of Cars. I cannot remember, but it was nominated for an Academy Award, and I was always really bored by it. I never really dug Bounden.
The one, I guess my least favorite is even though it had I don't know, it had an alright ending, but my least favorite is the one where they're trying to pull the guy up into the ship, the spaceship. They're trying to abduct the sleeping guy.
Oh yeah. I actually kind of like that one.
I don't hate it. I mean, it's my least favorite. I just think
but it's your least favorite, yeah.
Yeah, I actually think it's better than most of the animated stuff that we see out there. But it just seemed some of the jokes just didn't seem as creative as Pixar could be, and even the ending of that was sort of a very predictable ending. So, yeah, I mean, but still, when you say that it's not up to Pixar standards are so much higher than anybody else's. So, yeah, that's my least favorite. Bounding.
All right.
Bounding is the one with the jackalope. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Movie Lord asks, how come you guys didn't review the horror film Orphan last summer? Now, normally I don't like answering questions like this because it's like, dude, really, last summer? But I can answer it really quickly and we can talk about it briefly. They didn't screen it for us.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it was one of those midnight ones, and it was during a week where there were a lot of other films coming out, and our priority was on other more important films. As it turns out, not a very good movie. It's really good up until the last 15 minutes. It's surprisingly good. It's designed as a classic horror film, and unfortunately, it really drops the ball in the last few minutes and becomes a typical thriller and has one of the most ridiculous twists in a modern film.
Okay, I did not see it, but I hear that the ending is really freaky.
Redonkulous. It's really fucking silly. And the problem is that it's supposed to be one of those that throws you for a loop. And if anybody tells you in advance, oh, by the way, there's no way you could ever guess the ending, you figure out the ending 15 minutes in. And that's what happened with me. And as I sat there the whole time going, oh, I get this and this and this. And then I watched it and I'm like, yep, that's exactly what they're setting up. If there's any real, anything to be said for it, the film has internal logic. And while it's a ridiculous twist, it's a ridiculous twist that's supported by the film, but it's still not a very good movie.
Okay, yeah, I somebody told me that there was a twist, and I thought about it hard enough, and just went through different scenarios in my head, and the ending of that movie was one of those scenarios. So I definitely see what you mean. But what we got next?
Do you have a question?
I do. Let me see. I just started opening my email. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Oh, well, then I can find other stuff.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, let's see here. With Jonah Hex bombing at the box office, is it official that marketing on Spill is cursed?
No, these movies were seen as movies that were not going to do that well before they even were given to us. So, these, like Jonah Hex, it's way before we got anything for that film. People were talking about the trailer, and there was already industry rumblings that this movie's not going to do that well. And hey, look, if you go by our discussion, even the studio didn't have that much faith in the film. So they with what they paid for on the site, it was one of those movies where it seems like a lot of money to us, but for a studio, it is nothing. And they just said, well, we got to market the film one way or another, and we might as well market it in places where we see it effective, and that's what they did. But yeah, we're not. I will tell you this: we're getting those kind of movies because those are the kind of movies that they don't have to spend a whole lot of money on marketing. I mean, they can spend, few thousand in the double, like 20 to 30, $40,000, and that's really not that much money to them. And those are the kind of movies that we get now. It's not like multi-million-dollar marketing like they would for something like Batman or The Dark Knight, anything like that. So.
All right, so Podcast Fanboy gets the award for probably the most fucked up question we've ever been asked.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So Podcast Fanboy, way to go. Most fucked up question ever asked on a couple of cold ones. Please, nobody try to outdo this. But Corey, if you had to, what one actor and one actress would you pick to create a human centipede with you?
None. Jesus Christ.
No, if you had to.
If I completely had to. Well, it would be somebody. It would have to be under the condition that I would be the first part of the three segments, and that would mean that I would have to shit into somebody's mouth. So that would have to be somebody that I don't like, and it would probably be good to catch them as a couple, or at least people who have a very close working relationship, so you can get them at the same time. And those two people for me would probably be Friedberg and Seltzer.
Oh, nice choice. Okay.
What the guys who made the?
Although they said actor and actress.
Actor and actress. Well, okay, you know what? That's. Tell you what, you go ahead and answer that while I think of that.
Well, me, I would have to be the center, the first segment would have to be Keira Knightley. And so, I mean, if I'm going to spend my, eternity with my lips sewn together to somebody's ass, might as well be Keira Knightley. And then Rob Schneider would be behind me, sucking my shit.
Oh, okay. See,
there we go. Thanks, Podcast Fanboy.
That is a good question. And that's a good answer.
No, it's not a good question.
I like that question. That's creative. And I like that answer that you gave. That's good. You got it kind of taken care of in both parts. Unfortunately for me, as much as I am an ass man, I do not want to be sucking on somebody's shit.
Well, so it's had to though.
I mean, but if like I said, if I had a choice,
whose ass would you suck?
If I had a choice, come on, there's so many hot girls. Pick any hot girl in Hollywood. I'm not picky when it comes to that. I'm not gonna get to see their face half the time anyway. But they have to be hot. Have to be hot. Have to be like some girl who's so hot that I'm gonna say, I don't mind having having that ass on my lips, taking a shit in my mouth every couple of hours or whatever.
Hey-o.
But take your usual, man. Your Halle Berry's, your Jennifer Bills, your Jennifer Connelly's, anything.
Ass to mouth.
Kerry Washington would be one person. I wouldn't mind eating her shit, But I really would have to be at the head of this. Being that I'm passing it down, I would really have to just give it to two people that I do not like. And I don't know. I'm not. Who is it that? What's an actress or an actress I don't like? Dane Cook, maybe I would like behind me somewhere.
There you go.
Yeah, Dane Cook. So we got one segment there, and who else is annoying out there that I just can't stand? Well, I can't think of anybody right now. So,
all right. Well, so do you have a question available?
I do, but it's another Pixar question. So you know what? I'm just gonna skip.
Hit us with a Pixar question.
Okay. All right, this is a good
It's
one.
Pixar week, because I don't hate Pixar. I love Pixar. I don't hate this movie. Let's talk about it. People love it. Okay. It's that week. Next week, it's all about something else.
You soulless man, you. Okay, let's see. The Alex Hacker says, with Toy Story 3 making as much money as it did, do you think it will be the top grossing movie of the summer or the best? Well, the best is, that's an objective opinion. But if not, what do you think will top it and why? Being the top grossing movie of the summer, I think it definitely has a chance. Yeah, whether
it has a chance. It's definitely up there.
Given what it's doing right now, I would say yes. If I had to give you a yes or no answer, and you had a gun to my head and said, "Give me a yes or no answer right now," yes, I do. But what could come out there and beat it? I don't know. I don't see any.
Inception.
Inception was the first thing that came to mind.
If Inception is anywhere near as good as The Dark Knight is, it's going to do monster money.
But here's the deal, and I'm along with what you're thinking there. But The Dark Knight did as well as it did because it was based also on a property, a very popular property, Batman,
Well,
and
no,
and, and the Joker.
It did really well because it was based on that property, and Heath Ledger had died.
Well, I was going to be my next thing there too. Yeah.
Which on top of that, everyone walked out of that movie talking about how great it was. The reason it did so well was that for 5-6 weeks straight, it dominated the box office because everybody kept saying, man, I've got to go out and see this movie. It made the kind of money that Avatar made. It did really well opening weekend, but it kept doing incredibly well because everyone had to see what the fuss is all about. If this is that level of good, it can be the movie of the summer.
Well, the thing that this doesn't have is that it's not based on a property that people that don't recognize it. They don't have the anticipation of a first film because when people walked out of Batman Begins, they ended it with the promise of the Joker. So everybody was waiting on that beloved character, the Joker. Everybody wanted to see that. Then the Joker was played by somebody that they didn't want at first, so there was a lot of controversy about that. Then they heard that this person was good, and then that built up more hype. Then not only was that person good, but they died, and so that was more hype. And then it goes along with what you're saying. The pre-buzz on this movie was it's incredible, and the buzz ended up being true. And so there was so much going for that movie that made it what it is. Inception, while it might be a great movie, has none of that. That's why I don't think it's going to be another Dark Knight. And
I don't think it's going to be another Dark Knight, and I'm not predicting that. But what I'm saying is that because of the success of the Dark Knight and the fact that they're marketing it solely based on from the director of the Dark Knight, I think that if it is as good as it could be, it could in all likelihood be the movie of the summer. That's all I'm saying.
Well, here's the other thing. There's something else I want to bring up is that the reason why I don't think it can beat Toy Story, and no, it's not because I'm biased against Toy Story. I'm actually looking forward to Inception very much. That was probably the second movie I was looking forward to besides Toy Story. But it's not a family film, and I just don't think it's going to bring in those family film numbers.
Well, except that it's PG-13, and so is The Dark Knight, and so is Titanic, and so is Avatar.
Yeah,
and those are the three highest-grossing films of all time. I think, and if being PG-13, I think this can do it. I'm not saying it's going to do it. I'm saying it can. If there's anything that's going to topple it, it's going to be Inception. Aside from that, unless Avatar: The Last Airbender turns out to be absolutely jaw-dropping incredible, there's nothing else that's going to touch Toy Story.
Yeah, the bottom line is, I think for me, neither one of those movies has the buzz something like Toy Story did. I mean, that came into theaters with people saying, "Hey, they did it. This movie is great," and it's a third of a series. It's it's a sequel, and I mean, all those things besides it being like people loving Toy Story, it just had a lot going for it that makes like successful Hollywood movies, which is sequels and characters that people recognize, and it's something that Inception or even something like The Last Airbender, even though that's based on a very popular property, that neither one of those carry. But I am looking forward to Inception. I'll agree with you on this. If there was one movie that I think could pull it, even if I think it's impossible, it would be Inception. That's it. Yeah, I agree with you on that. So, you got anything else?
No, that should be it for this week.
All right, then.
Oh, you know what? I do have something to mention.
What?
And this is not a question, but Night and Day sucks.
Oh, wait a minute. What are you talking about, the Tom Cruise movie?
Yeah, that comes out this week.
Yeah, it comes out on Wednesday.
Yeah. I caught it at the paid sneak last night. Me and my wife and a couple of friends paid and went and saw it at the theater because you could see it a few days early. And it's I'm teetering between a rental and some old bullshit. I don't think it's worth watching. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
I have.
But you're not allowed to talk about it.
I'm not going to say anything yet.
Because you got your own review, and we were held to an embargo if we went to the screening. But I did not go to that screening. Instead, I paid to see it, and I'm very kind of miffed that I paid to see it because I got robbed.
Okay, know what? I will say nothing then. And I will save that for later. But
everyone can wait to see what you have to say, but my opinion is I strongly dislike that film.
Okay, you know what? Before we get out of here then, just give us some reasons why. Give us a review.
You know what? It's a really interesting concept. I can see why it got pitched. The basic idea of this movie is let's tell a James Bond film from the point of view of the Bond girl. And the protagonist of the film is the person who gets dragged along on the adventure, not the super spy. But this leads to almost every time there's a major action sequence come up, she gets drugged or knocked unconscious, and we wake up after the action scene. There's a scene where they're being chased by this like super spy drone type thing firing missiles at them, and they go to hop in this helicopter, and she gets knocked unconscious, and we wake up after that's happened. We don't get to see the helicopter chase. And this happens about half a dozen times through the film, and all we're left with are really unmemorable chase scenes that are just get too ridiculous for the sake of being ridiculous, and it's never funny, it's never really charming, and you never really care about the characters. And to top it all off, the title makes no goddamn sense. One of the characters is named Night. Is anyone else named Day? No. Is there anything in the movie named Day? No. They just wanted to call it Night and Day. It makes no goddamn sense.
Gotcha.
And that's my...
I can't say anything right now, but I will put it like this. I understand. So
do you feel me, brother?
I feel you, my man. So all right then.
I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys had to say, but I certainly did not like that film.
Well, thank you for that review. I appreciate that. So all right then, we're gonna get out of here. We'll see you later, people.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.